listening to Alex Ramosi years ago, and he showed a bunch of cups on a table. And he talked about, and oh, that's not a cup of it, but he showed a bunch of cups on a table. And this is what I used to do. I used to try to run a YouTube channel while I was going to start a production company, while I was also, coming up with logos, while I was buying screen, also doing domain names. And then I'll build websites on the side with my buddy. Then I'll do drones. You know what I mean? I was trying to start 7 businesses at once. And so he showed me that I had 7 cups or even 5 cups. And he puts watercolor water in a pitcher. And he pours the pitcher into this one and it gets a little bit. And he pours a pitcher into this one and, sorry. Yeah. And there's a little bit of water. And he keeps pouring in them, right? And he says, what you did, and he's talking to me, but I never met him. But he's like, what you did for the last 5 years is you tried to start 5 businesses. Used a lot of energy. You ran around. You felt somewhat busy, but you knew you were a mess. And you ended up with 5 cups half filled. I always believed I could do that, but each cup would go up a little bit more, and eventually all would work. But that was dreaming too. What he taught me is you need to find 1 cup. You need to work so hard at that 1 cup. And what happens is eventually that cup will overflow. Because you're just working so hard and so much money's coming from it. You'll have to open another cup and start putting some water in there. And then eventually, you know what I mean? And that will get somewhere. And then eventually you'll be able to put it in here. But the main thing never ends. So I'm a YouTuber, man. I'm a trader. I'm a crypto guy. This is it. This is what gave me everything. This is what brought me my fruition. I stay doing this. It fills the real estate cup. It fills maybe, angel venture capitalist VC fund cup. Maybe I do 10 of those and one of them hits big, Maybe I do start a product or something different on the side. You know what I mean? It fills that cup, that ability to do research and development and get that cooking. But this is the main, you know what I mean? And so I learned that I was doing too many things at once to become successful. Successful people do one thing really, really well. That overflows into other things. Because then the problem is you see successful people and they have all these things going on. Mark Wahlberg, he's an actor, but he's got Wahlburgers. He's got a restaurant. He's doing this. You know what I mean? He's outreach. He's documentaries. He's talking to his church. And you're just like, dude, he's working out. He does workout videos. You're like, dude, when does this guy stop? And so you're like, I got to do all these things like these successful people. You don't remember that the successful people did one thing really well for a long time. And that one thing gave them the ability to do many other things too. So now when you look at their life, it's like, wow. Like Shaquille O'Neal maybe has a bunch of food franchises. And, Master P too. Like Master P turned his music into food and franchising, and guy's worth like $500 million or maybe probably $1 billion now. He's worth $500,000. He was worth $400 million 20 years ago. But these are people that entrepreneur their way into the next level, and I like to this show is not just about trading. This show is about being an entrepreneur. It's about starting something from the ground up and taking it to the next level. Nobody knew what Crypto Lifer was before I started it. It wasn't here before. It didn't exist, right? So you start something that's never been out and you work so hard to make it known. That's how you start a business. That's entrepreneuring at its heart. That's the basics.
Don't miss out on our next live stream. Subscribe to @CryptoLifer on YouTube for more.